Okay, I want to officially call this meeting to order. The first thing I want to say is, wow, I'm really glad to see such a great group of citizens. And I know we're going to have a few different presentations this evening from a few of you, but really glad to see this many Wichita citizens out to hopefully talk with us and then hear what's going on with this board. So thank you for that. I'm going to hand over some of the announcements to Nina on our next agenda item.
Okay, first and foremost is the Sustainability Speaker Series kickoff. That is something you may have heard about already. This is in collaboration with the League of Women Voters and WSC's Environmental Finance Center. And the first event that will be happening is this coming Monday, and the topic is Environmental Justice 101. And this is going to be a presentation by Jeff Severin, who is part of the WCU Environmental Finance Center. I will also send out a link to the webpage that has the agenda so far with all the different events. Unfortunately, I don't have that linked on the agenda right now, but I can send that up as a follow-up. All right. Just a point of admin. This room is unavailable the next couple months. There was already a meeting scheduled. Mm-hmm. So I have scheduled this in the downstairs conference room. That is conference room A. That's the far one. If you come in through those, I think, west doors, it's all the way down the hall.
Okay. So same time, same general place, but different conference room.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'll make sure to send out a reminder about that. But that sort of leads me into my next announcement, which is that I will be leaving my position here at the city next month. And so you can ask me questions later, but for the sake of time, let's just get through it. And so I wanted to ask you all if you wanted to still have a February meeting, or if you would rather postpone until the spot is filled. But It sounds like from the informal conversations I've had with some of you that the theme is, let's go forward with February.
When are you departing in February?
February 17th is my last day. So I'll get the agenda and everything ready to go before that next meeting, because the meeting will be the following week.
Okay.
So everything will be prepped.
What if we moved it forward before you left?
I'll have to check on availability.
I'm just saying.
I could check on availability.
Okay.
That would give you about 3 weeks in between meetings. So if that's something you wanted to do, I could do that.
For the other board members in terms of scheduling, is that a doable potential scenario?
But
okay.
And I can't change stuff.
Okay. Okay.
But I was thinking also of actually doing a presentation to the city council, sort of giving them a 5-minute update and also plugging about making sure they replace with someone rather than draw it out and leave it vacant.
So I don't know if you want to talk to that a little bit. I will mention, so Nina and I did do a presentation, not at the city council meeting on a Tuesday, but in one of the workshops on Friday earlier this month. So that just happened. So they have a fairly recent update from that standpoint. I would still say it's not a bad idea to do it, but maybe wait a couple of months. I think by then too, we'll have more, but so I'll leave that part. And then in terms of, I don't know if you want to address the transition and how that might be going.
Well, the position is open and it should be closing this week. So the idea is to get it staffed relatively quickly, but there will still be somebody involved. I think Penny might be taking over temporarily for February.
Yeah, I can that, Nina. So hi everyone, I'm Penny Feist. I know a lot of you. I'm the Assistant Director of Public Works and Utilities. I oversee finance and administration, and Nina, she doesn't really fit into those, but I'll make a commitment to make sure this is staffed every month. If you want to meet next month, I'll be here, or I'll have another staff person here. You know, our most important role as staff is common requirements and facilitation and all of that, and we can do that for you. So I don't want you to panic or worry. If you can't move it up, I'll be here, someone else will be here. I had talked to Lori about, some interest in water, and we're in a drought now. So if you're interested, I'm more than happy to come and talk about that as well. So you'll have somebody, I promise.
Okay.
Thank
that
you,
sounds
Pam.
good. Thanks, Penny.
That's great.
Before we move on, I also want to just, give Nina a round of applause for the amount of work she's put into this last year, getting us off the ground. And she's really done an incredible job. And I'm sure that this probably reflects the board. Yeah, we're going to miss you. We've really enjoyed getting to know you this last year. And then again, you've been just an incredible resource to the board and to the committees as well. So let's give her a I won't embarrass you anymore. But heartfelt and meant.
Thank you. That's all I have for announcements.
Okay, so did everyone on the board have a chance to review the minutes that were sent out? Can I call for a motion to approve the minutes? And a second? Okay. You abstain?
Yeah, I wasn't here last time. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Lord,
I'll
you-
second.
Sounds good. So all those in favor of approving the minutes from last month's meeting, please say aye.
I,
All those who are not in favor, same sign. Okay. Lauren, I'm assuming you said yes. Can't see the screen, but that's okay. Okay, and then actually I need to flip back again. It should be public comment. Public comment. I know we've got a great group tonight, so who would like to speak? And we're gonna, because we have such a big group, let's limit it to about 4 to 5 minutes. Go ahead, Harold.
Yeah. And I'll try to get this done in 45 minutes. And can you put this up on the screen somewhere? There? It's the 2023 one. First of all, I want to say a few words about how I got here. It was about 2 years ago now. I noticed the park department crew cutting down some trees on the right of way in Delano that were hazardous trees, which is why they're being removed. They were a hazard to people or property. And the tree looked fine to me. I stopped and talked to the crew. And then I started to just notice the stumps in my neighborhood. And within a 2-block area of my house, I noticed 7 stumps. So that's it. Actually, yeah, you got it. So in any case, then go on to the next one, to the next slide on there. I decided to research what was happening with Wichita's tree canopy, with their trees. Actually, at that time, here's what I found out. Over the past decade, citizens, city government developers have created a net deficit of more than 50,000 trees in Wichita's urban tree canopy. Losses didn't start in 2012. This is a poem I wrote, Jane Hirschfield. You're all going to hear it, so don't let them know say they did nothing. Go on to the next one. And these are stumps from my neighborhood. My neighborhood's friendly stumps. Go on again. And there I am sitting on this giant stump, and you notice the right of way here doesn't have any trees on it anymore. The homeowner or the renter, the landlord does, but the house. Anyway, we've experienced a net loss of tree cover. When I say deficit or net loss, I mean the loss of tree canopy is greater than the new canopy cover generated through tree growth, natural regeneration, and tree planting. Think of it like a bank account, more money going out than is coming in. At some point, the account runs dry. Wichita's tree canopy is our inheritance from previous generations, and it's what we're going to leave those behind it. They come after us. Wichita trees were particularly hard hit by climate change. We had a drought that lasted 3 years, 2011 through 2013, another drought this past summer, and we're still in that drought. And if the drought doesn't kill the trees outright, then insects and disease take their toll of the weakened trees. Also, trees were planted in neighborhoods across the city, beginning in the 1920s, and many of these trees are now succumbing to age. So we have an aging tree canopy. Finally, development has also taken a huge toll. think of Wichita's Innovation Campus, a new water plant going up on West 21st, Botanica's Coke Pavilion, back gate and parking lot, and all the private development taking place. Could you go on? I want to show them a picture of, this is some of the investigation. By the way, these are numbers from the park department and from the city budget, but this means deficit. They've actually done this, but they don't publish this anymore. This used to be on the website, and after I started showing it to city council, kind of went away. So, you know, I'm going to talk to my council member and see if we can get the numbers, but this is the loss of trees each year. Go on, let's do some more. We'll run through them real fast here. This is something I put together based on that. And this looks at a 6-year period, 2016 to 2022. And we certainly made that number. And that does not include the private development. 22,302 trees lost. Sure,
Can you go back one slide?
sure.
Look at the bottom.
Yeah, I know.
Park expenditures
I know.
per acre, everybody?
This is a benchmark number that's based on the average. This is what we spend.
Yeah.
Okay, and I will say also that our spending in parks is heavily tilted towards recreation. But anyway, go on further, keep it going. Okay, here's what Botanica looked like before the Coke Pavilion and the back gate. This area right down here is old Cowtown, if this orients you, Little Ark River. And right here is where they put in the back gate. Now go to the next one. Okay, see the difference?
Wow.
This is the parking lot that they put in. This, of course, was old Cowtown. That's a Coke Pavilion in the back. That's it. This area. Switch it again just so you can see the difference. Yeah, okay. So this is what's happened to our trees, and when they did
And
that.
part of that green is artificial turf,
All of that green.
It is. You're exactly right.
carpet.
Go. Let's go on. This is the parking lot. It got put in. There wasn't trees all over this area. I live over there all the time, so I know that it wasn't trees. There were trees back there though, but it was area that could have been planted, and they can't be planted now. Okay. I don't want to pick on Wichita. Let's do another one real quick. Oh, I got to say this. The other thing, this is a scofflaw. This is a guy that lives right across the street from me, right across 3rd Street. There were 5 trees on the right of way there. He had a crew come out and cut those trees down. He flipped the house. He turned it into it's kind of a longer stay bed and breakfast now for traveling nurses, by the way. He's got 2 houses. And I called the park department. They sent a crew out. Crew came and talked to the park department, talked to that crew. They called their boss, who's a pipeline engineer, lives here in Wichita. And he stopped it. And then 2 days later, he sent the crew out again. Well, I just live right next to there. So I go over and said, what are you guys out here again for? And they said, well, he called us back and told us to go ahead and finish the job. So they took out 5 perfectly healthy trees. This is a
Publicly owned trees that you're not supposed to take out without a city
right.
permit.
And I was told that the Troy Hellman went and talked to the city attorney. I don't know what happened after that. Okay, I don't want you to think I'm too hard on Wichita, but look at the next slide. Part of this is projected by the Forest Service. This is Kansas. This is the percentage of urban tree canopies going to get lost between now and 2060. We're the largest city in Kansas. We're the 2nd largest metro area. A lot of that's us, that 19% loss. Go on to the next one. No, wrong way, other way. Okay, this is from American Forest, which is an organization that's very well funded, MasterCard, and who does your computers? The
Dell.
your operation programs.
Microsoft.
Microsoft is in it too. US urban areas, this is nationwide, we're losing 1 tree for every 2 trees established. Establishment is planted and actually regenerated. Well, Wichita flips it. we're losing 2 trees for every 1 tree established. That's scary, folks. Okay, why does it matter? And I'm gonna shut up real soon. Let's go on some more. We can run through this. 2017, the last data we have on the tree canopy, and we had 23% urban tree canopy. We're 1/3 impervious surface. That means like roads, buildings, things like that. And at that time, we had 45% planting rate. I can guarantee you this is less. You know, we just went through a bunch of stuff that was done since this canopy study. Okay, next one. This is from the Forest Service, U.S. Forest Service, U.S. Department of Agriculture. You know what really, I mean, trees are great for climate change, for sucking carbon out of the air, but this is what really gets me. There are all these studies that say if you live in an urban area that has trees around you and stuff like that, imagine Riverside, right? Then all these things happen. You have improved air quality, which ought to be important to us because we got, you know, all these people burning grass out east of us and northeast, and it's blowing right through us. Lower temperatures, reduce heat-related illness and mortality, improve mental health, reduce mental fatigue, mental illness, stress reduction, recovery, all of these things, improve drinking water, reduce crime. That's what got me. If you live in a city that has lots of trees, the crime rate goes down. Totally weird. Anyway, good. They've done these studies. So let's go on. This is that quote is a great quote, and I can't tell you where it came from. I got it out of something. They were talking about machines that would take, you know, carbon out of there, and that was the response from somebody. Let's go on to the next one, and let's just go through. Trees are good investments, reduce the effects of climate change. You know, this is all from the Arbor Day Foundation. Keep on going. Increase our property values, cleaner air, much needed cooling. Okay, I see trees. I've been working with a group of people who think that we maybe should form a nonprofit. I don't know. We're exploring the idea, but I've put together some stuff in these discussions about here would be the goal: save, renew, and expand the tree canopy. And this is how we do it. And the nonprofit would plant trees everywhere we could plant trees. We would provide education for homeowners because there's a bunch of residential people that need trees in their yards, and we can talk to them about why they're a good thing to do and how to do it. Advocacy would be working with our elected officials to have tree-friendly activity, and then partnerships. We can't do this without partnering to the extent we can with government, but also with our corporate folks. We really need to form partnerships. I See Trees was formed in 2015. It stopped operations in 2019 after it had planted more than 3,000 trees. It was an all-volunteer organization, and it received contributions from companies such as Evergy, Home Depot, and Cargill. So, and those obviously would be places we would look at. I've spoken with Barney Barnard, ICT Trees founder. He has no problem with our resurrecting ICT Trees to tackle Wichita's tree canopy deficit. The first IC Trees focused solely on planting trees. The resurrected ICT Trees will plant trees that broaden its mission to include education of homeowners and mechanics and value of trees, and educate elected officials and the community at large as to the value of our urban tree canopy. Part of that is that's why we need the data. Ultimately, we would like to have a plan for Wichita. We'd like to have a plan to increase it, but we need data. In addition, we will advocate for tree-friendly policies with city, county, and state governments. And finally, we'll partner with any organization public, private, or nonprofit that will help us accomplish our mission. And what do we need? We need an accountant. We need somebody with accounting or at least bookkeeping skills. We need somebody to do pro bono legal work. We need volunteers. We need to find out folks want to do this. It's around the meeting, February 4th. And we're going to find at least the beginning of it. Oh, tree hugger, right?
Harold, are you still looking for board members as well? Is that something?
We are looking for board members, and the board is an oversight board. Now, that means it will keep the officers honest and active and make sure we're doing what we want to do, but the real work is going to be done by committees. And then I've done a draft put together a draft bylaws, which would have 4 officers of the board who would meet monthly. The board that is the oversight board would meet quarterly. And the idea would be that the people that were on that board, some of them we need to have people known in the community with credibility, really. But we also need people with expertise. So we'd like to have an arborist, professional arborist. I have talked to several people. I talked to you and you turned me down.
I did, just because I'm too.
We're also going to have a advisory committee, I think, which doesn't even have to meet, but it'll probably be on a letterhead. And we've got to put together something that we can get money. And I'm seeing grants and corporate donors as being the primary source of money, because it costs a lot of money to plant trees. That's why that's the other reason why we're behind. It costs a lot of money. We won't hire people, but we need the equipment, we need the trees, and we need the places to plant them, which might surprise you, but can be difficult.
Yeah.
I'm done. I'm sorry.
Well, that's kind of a call to action for Harold in terms of board members. So he's right. He asked me and I did turn him down mostly because I'm just too overcommitted at this point, but not for lack of interest or believing that this is a wonderful cause that I hope that people will jump on board with as well. So please consider, talking with him about being on part, being with the organization in some capacity or another.
Harold, could you send that presentation to Nina, or maybe she could copy it real quick while she's got your flash drive and.
Yeah, this doesn't have the words though, it's just got the pictures.
Okay, well, never mind then.
But there's a nice presentation now recorded too that we could potentially
Okay,
utilize
that's
for
true.
recruitment.
That's true.
Yep. So, okay, other comments from other folks.
I want to make sure we get Ty in here because he did request getting on for public
Okay.
comment. And he's not a regular member, so I want to give him a moment
Sure.
to do that.
Let's go ahead, Ty.
Oh, all right. I think you called on me. It's a little hard to hear you in particular. Okay, thanks. Well, I appreciate that last presentation. And hi, y'all. I'm Ty Gorman. I'm the Sierra Club Kansas representative for the Beyond Coal campaign, based here in Kansas City, Kansas. And just wanted to first give my appreciation to Nina and the board for all the great work, and hope to talk to you a lot more next month's meeting for a little presentation on some issues there. I'm trying to make it down in person, so hopefully that'll work out. And just quickly wanted to bring up some advances in the Inflation Reduction Act rules that came up at the beginning of the year. There are, again, too many opportunities to go into in a few minutes, but suffice to say that the city of Wichita has a whole lot of opportunity to get into efficiency and environmental justice, to bring millions of dollars to the folks that need it most in homes. And the KCC and the Evergy folks are probably not going to be meeting that need. Well, I'll just go ahead and say they're not going to meet the need with the efficiency docket that's still under consideration in Topeka. We're hoping for a good outcome on that, as good as it can be, and we still have hope there. But regardless of that outcome, the measures that Wichita can take unilaterally in separate energy efficiency programs are huge. And Sierra Club's involved with a lot of the national fuel switching and larger efforts around getting rid of coal plants, the USDA and DOE programs on generation and the rulemaking in that vein. But we also have a bunch of partners and environmental justice folks nationally that are experts in, and that we get information from constantly on implementing these energy efficiency programs locally. And I want to be a resource to you all, and hopefully can do more next month on bringing that knowledge and access to folks who can help write grants, who can bring that information to the city government level. I've presented to all the city councilors and publicly and one-on-ones, and the mayor, well, not all of them, but a majority. And the opportunity is there. I just think that there's no one working on it, and there's no one that can drive that work forward right now. And I keep asking for that resource more than Nina, who's been, I think, maybe a lot put on her there, and hard to replace anyway, and we need a lot more too. So there's money for that, and these environmental justice EPA grants that I'm reaching out to the EPA Region 7 about to try to facilitate environmental justice communities, and especially 67214, to have access to that money specifically for planning and staffing. So just throwing a lot at you to say, I'd love to meet one-on-one with anyone who's interested in the stuff I'm talking about right now before next month, so that I can incorporate y'all's thoughts and concerns into my presentation next month. So
I'd be happy to talk with you on that, and anything you could send about those programs via maybe Nina to her email ahead of time as well. That would be really helpful. So we could review it before you come to present.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be sharing a PowerPoint as well as a bunch of background material. I think the problem lately has been I've been sending too much, all the spreadsheets and details and whatnot that are associated with these programs. So yeah, I'll try to bring that into a better presentation format and send it to y'all ahead of time over the next week or two.
Great, sounds good, Ty.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
My turn.
Your turn.
Just wanted to mention a couple of things. One is that Lavonta Williams told me that a couple of weeks ago that the single-use plastic bag task force was going to be workshop in November, February. February. And I hope that's still on schedule. Does anybody know that?
As far as we know.
Great. The urban heat study, hopefully that will be revealed sometime soon. We've been waiting for that.
We have a meeting soon to discuss with the city manager, just to make sure staff is up to speed, and then how that might inform other aspects like the tree policy. And then once we kind of get our heads around that, it'll come back to the board.
Excellent. At the beginning of this month, there was a session called Brainstorming for the Environment for Wichita. And 50+ people came. Lots of sort of suggestions on 9 various topics, and those are posted now on a new Facebook page called Re-Greening Wichita. So it's a group.
I didn't hear the first word.
Re-Greening Wichita. So it's a group that you have to ask to be admitted to, and hopefully lots of people will. Useful suggestions, sort of out of the box instead of narrow lanes or same old, same old. Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
All right, other public comments?
Greetings to all of you born of this land. I'm Kent Rowe and been spearheading electrification for the area here. And it turned up, I went to the Renewable Energy Conference in Manhattan back in October. And Commissioner Dennis gave a presentation. Afterwards, I confronted him in front of the entire audience and saying, the way it is now, people have had their power turned off, cannot even have a solar panel in their backyard, not even a camper solar panel, the way the ordinance is read, to keep the lights on. And if you don't know how terrifying it is to have no lights whatsoever in certain areas of town, it's pretty frightening. So I was confronted by some other people who said, well, come to us and talk to us. So we did. And we went to the Electrical Appeals Board of Sedgwick County and explained to them what we wanted to do. And they said, okay, you can put on solar panels. You just kind of have to have the cords running through windows and doors and such. You have to have an interface to the home. So I think we've worked that out. We're ready to go with a test bed prototype. It's going to be up front. It's going to be visible. And we'll see how, if they can actually follow through with the promise. This leads into something we need to do desperately with electrification, because it's called MVAR, megavolt amps of reactive power, for charging electric vehicles, for a number of other things, but it's also storage with using your electric vehicles, V2G or V2H, vehicle to grid, vehicle to home, where you use community choice aggregation to sell your power back at certain times of the day, that reactive power that you're going to need, say the I-135 corridor. Vehicles are going to be coming into these truck stops, various places, traveling interstate, and they're going to be plugging in from large transports to small cross-country private vehicles. So this is something we're going to do. I don't think the investor-owned utilities are quite interested in this, other than selling a lot of coal and doing the same business of running poles through neighborhoods that they shouldn't be doing, carrying long lines of high voltage capacity lines through neighborhoods, or even large solar arrays outside the community, because if a cloud comes over on cloudy days, that drops the voltages very quickly. But if it's spread out on rooftops, carports, pergolas, and so forth in residential areas through community choice aggregation, that levels that out. It's called frequency regulation. And we cannot charge vehicles very efficiently with bad frequencies that's separating out from the 60 hertz cycle. So when that occurs, we have to have good quality electricity. So we're working on that. Watch for our prototype. We'll let you know what happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken.
Persistence pays, doesn't it?
Where will the prototype be? The prototype site is at 12th and Cleveland.
And that's them an opportunity zone. So
Right.
Wonderful.
Right.
Good job, Ken.
we've been working on trying to get a solar project into that opportunity zone. I've been doing some research.
You came to the Climate and Energy Project event a couple of years ago, right?
Oh, probably, yeah.
Can you say your name?
If it has any, Carla Jackson.
Carla Jackson.
Yeah, if it has anything to do with solar or alternative energy, I'm there.
Sounds good.
Can I just add one thing to that? You two need to get together with Todd.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I know Todd.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you know him, but you need to get together. on
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, on this issue.
Yeah, when he comes, you know, it's like, he'll probably have pretty much the same information that I've been working on.
Okay.
But we've got these opportunity zones, that are just laying dormant, nobody's doing anything about it, so I'm like a dog with a bone, you know,
That's good.
but yeah.
Like Lori said, persistence pays off.
Yes, and I could see, like in that, right off 135 at 9th Street. I'm looking at, you know, like putting, EV charging stations there. That's one of my goals is to try to get one,
Right?
yeah.
That's good. All right, other comments for tonight? All right, hearing none, we will move on in the agenda, which I believe is going to be a few updates and presentations. Okay,
Plastic bag task force update. And then we will do as much of the proposal drafts as we can.
Okay.
Obviously, we're limited on time.
then I will keep things at that 15-minute mark or less for each one. And I know we have some guests tonight who are going to do presentations, so we'll prioritize guests tonight
Right.
over our own.
Yeah, let's do that.
So Lori, go ahead and give us an update.
Actually, Brett's gonna kind of lead this,
Okay.
I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, do you want to do the PowerPoint? Or what were you thinking? Yeah.
Hold on one second.
She's. There you go.
Anyway, my name is Brett Prather, and I am a member of the Single-Use Plastic Bag Task Force that was formed by the city back in 2020, just about time COVID hit. So we formed a group of people. It's supposed to be a grassroots group of the community. I'm a local Wichita architect, been practicing here since '85. Lori's on the team, and everybody knows that Lori has a vast background in Sierra Club and beyond, and can't keep up with. We actually have Kelly Johnson. He's a retired, semi-retired legal counsel that's on the committee. Levanta is Williams. He's on the committee as well. We have a member from Goodwill Industries. We had a couple members rotate through from Envision on the committee, and we also have
Sheila.
got Sheila with Kroger, Dylan's Kroger. They want to have input and be involved in this as well. We had a couple other members who were private business owners within the community to see their input and see how this impacted them. So we formed this committee a few years ago. Had a few meetings. I think we had one meeting, then COVID shuts down. They going virtual, and it slowed things down quite a bit. So it got active again this last year to try and start this thing and get it done and see what we can make happen. So what we've done as a group is we've developed a PowerPoint, which I'll take you through here. It's not a very long PowerPoint, but it's one that we've developed that we're going to bring to the city council, because the ultimate goal is to get the city council to take action one way or another. And we, as this task force, are coming with a recommendation to the city council in doing so. So what we have done so far to date with the council members, we've met with 5 out of 6 council members one-on-one. We want to meet them one-on-one to get some input from them and showed a few of them. Some of them saw the PowerPoint, some didn't. They saw a report, which you do have a copy of the report, and our recommendation on that. We still have one council member to meet with, and the mayor that we plan on meeting with before the February 14th workshop. We do have a workshop scheduled. We didn't meet with the council members enough, give them enough information to get their interest enough to say, yes, we will have a workshop on this with you. So we have one on February 14th. And then from that workshop, they will make a decision as to whether we can bring it to the table or not. Because if it's successful, then they'll bring it to the table. We'll have a discussion, presentation to the council members at a city council meeting, just have them vote on it at that time. If they don't feel that has enough justification to go there, they will table it at that point. It will die. And then we'll see what our other recourse is if we want to do which is how we want to reevaluate at that point. So one of the tasks too, in talking with Bob Layton, city manager, and the council, they wanted us to come and present to you, just to get your feedback. So tonight, the purpose is, hey, here's what we're doing. And what is your feedback to it? And we said, are you expect to vote? That's not so much a vote says that we want this, but it's really good. Do you support, do you not support? Get your feedback so we can take that information to the city council members and to the workshop. So that's what this is tonight. So we go forward. So anyway, that's a quick explanation of who we are. So we go to the next slide. And once again, why? Because we need to report to the city council once again that have a recommendation on whether to or not to ban the plastic bags is the ultimate goal that we have. The next slide, please. Because it covers from these first slides as I've been talking already. And our task that we had, what does this mean? How are we going to evaluate it? So we went out, we had environmental and pollution, we had to address that, address what are the health impacts, what are the financial impacts, and what are alternatives if we decide to say, hey, the bags aren't good, what are alternatives? So those are 4 elements that we address. So go ahead, and if you want to go to the next slide, please. We did look at, this is really our general information slide that Kelly put together, and this is actually a higher number. But
Now, yeah.
since we started in February 2020, that's how many bags that we've been using just in Wichita.
Wow.
And this hasn't been updated for probably 3 or 4 months. So it's going to be well over, the $500 million at this point. But that's just something that we should kind of drive home, that a lot of bags out there that are still floating around. But anyway, next slide, please. So we looked at the environment and looked at our local environment. That's one thing that kind of had to show that it does have an impact, if there is a financial impact, but we had to show its environmental impact. We said, well, here's what's happening around Wichita. You see the wastewater treatment plant. This is a processing, a constant processing plastic bags right here that they have to take care of. It gets into the system, it clogs the system in various areas. So there's a cost that we discovered that it costs to clean the system and keep maintaining from the bags. It's around a couple thousand a month. Just taking photos outside an office somewhere at Old Town. There's usually something in Old Town and trees and shrubs along our driveways, as drive areas. Next slide, please. This is someone coming near close to town. He's coming out of Rusty Ford, driving out along the frontage road and entrance ramp, just littered with bags, and it's a good place to catch them. But then as I looked at my kitchen window the other night, just in my house, there's a bag that had blown in a tree out there. So they are everywhere. Next slide, please. And then, of course, we have this drainage area here at 3rd and Lorraine, and this is where we want to show that, hey, we do have a problem. There are a lot of bags out there, and it's not as bad as some cities, better than some. So we have a problem that we need to address. And so, next slide, please. So we started doing some research and had a survey done, official survey with WSU. And the survey said, or here the quick bolts in red, is 87% of the people we surveyed, 2,064 people, 87 said they agree that there are too many single bags on landfills. Okay, and that's pretty easy to agree with, but 71% said they agree with banning the bags. So, once you know it, what are you going to do about it? And that's what we've been saying as a committee. We've been saying we need to make people aware, but we also need to make them care. If you can be aware of it, nothing's going to happen. You have to care and you have to have some action. 71% said they would actually act on it. They would agree with doing it. 67 said they would, of the overall, said they would do it with an incentive to pay if there's a 5-cent tax on using a single bag. And 51% if there's a 10 cents tax. So we've done some research with those cities to see how they have approached it. Like, was there a tax? Was there not a tax? What worked best for you? How much of a tax? How does this work? Next slide, please. We also looked at the health issues of it, how it impacts us. So we know that it's called microplastics. And it's all forms of plastics that break down and they never really go away. When they say these single-use or biodegradable, they first have to be exposed to ultraviolet rays. Well, you can't do that in a landfill. And even exposed to ultraviolets or UVs, they don't degrade very fast, but they degrade into smaller bits and smaller bits of plastic, which get into our ecosystem and we ingest it, as it shows right here. There's many forms of not just us, but for our livestock, bears, everything who eats salmon, birds get it, such. So it impacts a lot of our system, our whole ecosystem with us and other animals.
Did you add that it's now appeared in placental tissue?
I don't have that in this slideshow because I know this isn't the latest. I got a few that picture on that slideshow, but
yeah, that might be
that's
something that we could add. Because that's been shocking to a lot of people in this country and in this world.
Which only makes sense that it is, because once you ingest it, it isn't.
There,
It's
yeah.
everywhere.
Next slide, I think, is really shocking. Yeah, this one surprises me, and I still have a hard time believing it, but it's backed up by two different sources, that weekly we ingest a credit card worth of plastic. Like, how can we live doing that? But there's a lot of micros going into our system, and I know that Denver is one of many cities now that has a count when they have the rain. Usually it's acid rain, and now they have microplastic. They have parts per million, of drops and the plastic microplastics that are in the rain. That's in the rain, so it's going to be everywhere. So it is a health issue in various ways. Next slide, please. And then we looked at the economic impact. We had a study done by there's a gentleman at WSU that did a study. Talked to local businesses and saw that there is a negative impact at the very beginning when stores switch over. Then they have to, through training people and switching over from the bags and just the logistics of doing it, there's some cost, but that goes down rather rapidly. And after, not even the first year, it pretty much dissipates, goes away. But there are other positive impacts. The cost of it is basically the petroleum industry makes $4 billion per year off these bags. So somebody is paying that $4 billion, and that is the consumer. And so that doesn't get passed down. It looks like in a report from WSU that didn't reflect that report. This is information we came up with and added to the report, our report, is it doesn't say how the cost is passed on. So the cost does get passed on. There's also the cost with it. The cities, it costs about $8 a ton in the process of them, pick them up, get them to the landfill. And San Francisco, which put a stop on it, and they have a population of Frisco proper, 874,000. They saved between pretty close to $700,000 a year, which you break that down per capita per head. In Wichita, we could see a savings of $309,000 annually in cost by eliminating just a single-use plastic bag. So there is a savings that can be passed on to the consumer and to the city, which is our tax dollars to the consumer once again. Next slide, please. And this is basically some numbers overall that we use over 102 billion plastic bags a year in this country. And the average family staff 1,500 shopping bags a year. Again, only 1% of them are returned for recycling, which isn't a really good thing anyway on recycling. The average family, they only recycle 15 a year. And the average lifespan is maybe just 12 minutes. And we also found that when we talked to people, they all came up with, they either throw them away, try to recycle, they had one use for them, and that is to collect dog poop. And then it gets thrown away with dog poop. So that's the life of your single-use plastic bag. Once again, we're talking about the single-use plastic bag that's used, like go to Dillon's, the little ones that are using once and throw away. It's not those that are reusable or the larger ones and such that are heavier gauge. We're talking about single use. Next slide, please. And this once again is reiterating this to 1 or 2 billion plastic bags with only 1 to 3% being recycled. So next slide, please. And so we do say it is, coming back to our environment, that this is beyond Wichita, but it is Wichita and everywhere else. Well, 80% of our ocean plastics are from land, of course, and how many species that is impacting and marine animals that are killed each year. And like one specific is the leatherback sea turtles that have a lot of loss of life. So we do have that slide in there, even though this is not Wichita, we're still making the point that we are part of the environment that it impacts. We're a smaller part of it in large, but every little bit helps. Next slide, please. And this is just to reemphasize again how the plastic bags, and just have a negative impact on a very large scale in a lot of different areas, a lot of region. Next slide, please. Some examples of what some cities like Frisco, Colorado, they adopted a 25-cent fee, and it wasn't very successful. They said they still had they had 1 million bags with 3,000 people, so they said enough. We'll just ban it, period, and that's worked. This needs to be updated, but it has a couple of years ago, but since then, go back and say, yes, it's been successful. I called and talked to one of their city administrators, and we have found that really the most successful is just ban it without doing a taxation. You just do it. And what happens is people wail and gnash their teeth for about 2 days, and they just change a habit, but people accept it. They go on, and it's just like, what did you do before we had it?
Right.
So It is actually a really easy transition, that we found out in talking to these communities. Next slide, please. California, once again, it's a success. This is just using an example that after 6 months, 86% transaction, and 6 months, they were all bringing their own bags. They were getting used to it. It's just a matter of how it's done. So I leave them in front of my car so I can grab them in the back seat, so I can grab them. You can have it, just have it. If you forget them, you see if you can carry it out without a bag.
Right.
Now I'm getting people like today, funny look, like when I ordered a wrap, say, don't give me a plastic bag. And okay, they're starting to get used to it.
Yeah.
Okay, next slide, please.
I'm gonna give a 2-3 minute warning.
Okay, thank you. I got a 2-3 minute warning, but go ahead.
I have a question about the plastic bags that are used in the produce departments. Would that be included in this ban?
That is not included right now. So once when you check out a Jew, when they
So
pick
only
it, yeah,
the
those are not
The
included.
shopping bags.
Right, those are
Yeah.
not included. Could that be addressed later? It probably will be, but those aren't included. Right. It's a good question, but those aren't right now. This is what we want to emphasize to the council, that we are behind the times, actually, when you see what the rest of the world is doing. And Australia actually should have a lot of blue or colors on it, because Australia, the Northern Territory, Southern, and Tasmania are all addressing that, where they are areas that have banned the bag. There are parts of the United States it doesn't show. When you look at 17 countries in Africa that are doing it, I'm just impressed with Africa, and China actually too, impressed with it in Europe. So we're really behind the times, and as we mentioned, it's going to happen. It's a matter of under whose watch does it happen. It's the attitude that we're taking with that we're going to be visiting with our council about. Next slide, please. And this is just, since I'm running out of time, we have a list of companies. These are major companies that have already done it, and Kroger is coming right in here, and they're we've talked about a little bit.
Walmart too now.
Yeah, well, Walmart already is. You know, like this is another thing. In certain major cities, Walmart's had to do it in those cities, so they know how to do it. It's just there, just pull the trigger and just ready to do it.
Target, all of them. They've done it in other places.
Next slide, please. And so what we need to do is, what do we do about this? Well, we need to create awareness, as mentioned earlier. We need to educate the community. You know, what is a plan? We'd have to have a plan of action, how we'd have to do this, educate the community, you know, and have their support to do this and implement it. And we felt like making an ownership where they need to own this, you know, make people own certain things, be proud of. Let's take care of this situation ourselves, changing the habits. Next slide, please. And benefits, healthier environment creates a better environment for our next generation. It's an economic boost as we looked at the numbers. It's not a giant boost, but it does save money. Cleaner city, and then pride, and set an example for other cities that aren't doing it. We want to look at Wichita as something that can be something that we're proud of ourselves. And there's been a lot of talk with a lot of your political side and a lot of people in the workforce around here that we lose our youth. Well, the youth are concerned about this. And so it's an issue with our youth. So let's address that. So I think that's my last slide. Next slide, please. We've talked about this. Next slide, please. It's about our future. So this is our presentation, and it's constantly being tweaked before we get this from the city council. But I just wanted to present it to you. I think I'm gonna run over on time.
That's okay. So from us, you said you do need a vote in terms of whether we support, or just more of a verbal, yes, we support.
I think that's it. Some general discussion says, yeah, and he said, Bob said not necessarily vote, just that.
Would we like to call a vote on it to support?
On banning versus taxation, is that what we're?
We are recommending banning. The recommendation in the report is we are going to recommend banning, but over a period of a year to probably 18 months. And the reason it's 18 months is we wanted to go for 10 years or 2 months to a year initially, because we have to educate the people, get people on board, and make it have solutions in place. So that's going to take a little while. We also, Kroger is going to have it done within 18 months or less now period to kind of coincide with it. And then we talked with Envision with Michael Monteferrani, and they make plastic bags. And that's one of the reasons Envision was put on this committee, because they make them. But we went and talked with Michael, and he was really good to work with, where said, hey, let's be part of the solution, not the problem. And they will not stop making bags, so there's a business, but that doesn't impact Wichita. We don't use any of their bags, so it doesn't have a negative impact on business, but he is going to step up, gear up equipment to make cloth bags to take care of the situation. So we have some support from Envision as well. So this is what we're taking to the city council, but in meeting with him, we had a meeting with him and some council members, and they said it'd take him about 18 months to tool up with equipment to do that properly. So we're putting this on a roughly 18-month period where it's done in 18 months. Wish it could be quicker, but that's our recommendation.
That's certainly what I would agree with, sir.
Absolutely. So again, kind of asking the board, do we feel comfortable maybe doing a motion to support the plastic bag committee in banning over the 18-month period?
Absolutely.
Okay, Michael, why don't you do a motion, or let me call for a motion.
I motion that the Sustainability Board supports the banning of plastic bags in the Wichita greater area during the 18-month cycle that you're talking about.
Okay.
All right.
Can I
I
get
could second that.
well, actually, let's have someone else second that because you're on the committee.
Oh.
Someone else second that. Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Lauren, are you a yay or a nay? Are you there? Well, there's four.
Oh, goodness.
Four votes. 4 votes,
For-
1-1.
For the bylaws, any vote that isn't given during the time is assumed a positive.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, then great.
I like our bylaws.
Okay.
All right. Wow.
Good bylaws. Okay. So the motion passes, and we will in our record, we will have that we support.
Thank you. Can I mention one other thing now that we need to know? I did not realize it was Monday, but Senate Bill 47 is back to haunt us again.
Okay.
The Kansas Chamber of Commerce would like to prohibit cities from regulating any single-use plastic containers, any straws, bags, styrofoam, anything. And it would prohibit municipalities from adopting or enforcing ordinances, resolutions, or regulations that restrict, tax, prohibit, or otherwise regulate the use, disposition, or sale of auxiliary containers or consumer merchandise. This is coming up for a hearing on Monday. Senate Bill 47, you can submit testimony. If you'd like to do that, let me know. I can send that to everybody. Just telling this committee, and it's the Senate Commerce Committee, that you do not support limiting local control. That's the key word, local control, home rule. Home rule. That is coming up on Monday, it says at 10:30 a.m. Wait. I think I may have gotten this one wrong, but there's also an opportunity for anybody to help submit testimony. It just has to be turned in by Sunday at 8 p.m. It has to be in a PDF form, but we can transfer that if we need
What
to.
the task force is doing to respond to that is like we did a few years ago. It was put on the table. They passed a resolution, the governor vetoed it. There was not enough power. 11 Republicans voted to support the veto. It wouldn't cancel, so the veto held. Probably will happen again if it goes that far, but the timing doesn't matter. We have a job to do. We've been tasked to do this. We're going to finish our task with the city and come up with a recommendation regardless of what happens with this.
Right.
And if it does happen, we'll respond to it at that time. But right now, we're just proceeding as we got things in motion with the meetings coming up. We're just going to keep going.
Sounds good. Well, thank you for your work on this.
Well, thank you for your
Sounds
time. I appreciate it.
really.
Thanks for being here, Brett.
The bill number, Lori.
SB 47.
I am going to go ahead and have us move on for the sake of time tonight. But again, thank you very much for the great work on this. So I know you've been working and everyone has for quite a long time. So thank you for that. I want to go ahead for some of the presentations tonight. I want to give priority to Thomas to start this evening. Because I know, anyway, I would like to give you priority tonight to start. Yeah, or first.
I'm not used to that.
You're a guest tonight, so.
Actually, probably stay over here.
as long as you stand near one of the microphones so that hopefully folks online can hear you.
Well, I'm loud, so hopefully they can hear it anyway. I just want to be able to see everybody. I'm gonna leave my hat on, is that okay? I have an autoimmune that makes my eyes struggle with the light, so I promise I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
We just figured you were bald.
No, I shaved my head. All right, so very quickly about me, because I'm going to talk very fast, which is a very natural ability I have. So if I go too fast, I apologize, but we are running a little short on time, so I do want to pay that respect. My name is Thomas Montiel. I have a master's in something called organization development, which basically means I work with people and systems and how they interact. And that's important because what I'm going to talk to you about is actually systems. A couple of weeks ago, I got invited to the Green Space Subcommittee meeting, ironically, the day after I had a meeting with Parks and Recreation, and things kind of came together, and I was asked to provide a proposal by the Green Space Subcommittee to the board tonight. So that's kind of what the conclusion of this is. My organization is something called Montiel Farms. It's one of two businesses I own. Montiel Farms has a very unique model of urban farming. We actually grow using regenerative and sustainability practices and permaculture practices on land throughout the farms. Last year, we grew at 4 different locations. This year, we'll be up to 14. We actually grew somewhere between 10 and 15,000 pounds. Part of the reason I don't know how much of that was actually done is because we give a lot out. We give a lot back to the community. And quite frankly, in urban environments, we give a lot out and actually people just take it from places all the time, and that's okay. Part of the reason we choose the areas we grow in is because they're in areas of need. So if somebody walks by and they need a cucumber because they're hungry, they get a cucumber because they're hungry, even though we're a for-profit model. The proposal in front of you, and I'm not going to try to read it because one, you guys are capable of reading, and two, so I'm going to sum it up so everybody kind of understands what this is. The proposal that's in front of the group tonight is a collaboration amongst multiple organizations ever since those fateful meetings. It is the concept of actually creating something called a sustainability park. I've had preliminary conversations with the head of the Parks and Recs Commission about the idea, and he approached me with the concept of what would it look like to farm 1 acre of land on the parks. They have over 1,000 acres of what they considered undevelopable land. And we just took that idea a little further. When I met with the Green Space Subcommittee, we started talking about how do we make it a green space even beyond that. During that same meeting, I found out about a few of the other projects and started reaching out to people like Jesse from Dutch Compost. Jesse's a friend already. It was really easy to reach out and call him. So his part of the budget that I know is part of waste and recycling is actually built into mine. And the reason I did that was the idea of seeing a fully comprehensive concept of creating everything in a single location. And here's the reason why. When I talk about systems, and the reason I introduced myself that way is I think based on watching previous meetings and just my experiences as a whole, I've spent most of the better part of 2 decades running nonprofits or other community-based organizations prior to opening these businesses that I currently own, is you almost are better off finding a way to find out what can be scalable and what is sustainable within your business models before you expand. So instead of having multiple projects all over an area, the concept here is targeting a single neighborhood that has a park as a central point. Nudge Compost will identify 400 areas or work for 400 homes or 400 potential customers to use their services as part of this, which deals with yard waste and food waste out of those homes. We'll also incorporate a composting central post for him to pick up beside our farms. We'll also include things like a food forest, a cardboard drop-off location, and a brown paper bag location. I know the architect, what's his name, Brett, that just gave that presentation, I really enjoyed, because if people are using more paper bags versus plastic, it's wonderful, because as a gardener and a farmer, I love them. They're a weed barrier in my world. We'll put them to work. So it kind of goes hand in hand already with some of the things that we're already working on. In fact, last year, during one of our growing seasons, we opened up just our little community and by one of our gardens, hey, bring your paper bags. And within a day, we had about 400 bags dropped off at one of our locations in about 2 hours. So
be on that list, please.
Seriously.
You should get on the paper bag.
That's part of the reason for the location, honestly. The other reason for some of the location of parks when it comes to a concept of sustainability park in full picture is if we can identify a park that actually has a community center, we're now opening to the idea of full education opportunities with infrastructure that's already in place. We can do cooking classes, you can do sustainability classes, recycling classes. You can talk about energy use, anything you wanted. The other thing that I talked to Jesse about was how his services work is homeowners that participate in Nudge Compost have an option at the end of the season to get a bag of compost back. And when he does that, that's a deliverable where we're hand delivering to 400 homes in this neighborhood where we have an opportunity to include things like flyers or education materials, invitations. I'm also a big community engagement person, which is my background. I don't like opening farms. We launch them. So the way you get community engagement and ownership is not only just through being there and saying, hey, look, we're here. You invite them to a big party. I know that sounds funny, but anybody who knows how that works, food's a great way to get people together. The idea of food that's at a reasonable way that everybody can access is a great way. Two things that makes Montiel Farms different as well is we also use 2 different models at all of our locations currently. And if we do this with the sustainability board, we will maintain those models. I'll be part of that commitment, which means if we do this together as a partnership, you automatically have more than one location that's going to support this concept. We do a pay what you can model, which basically means if somebody comes in and they buy 5 pounds of vegetables, but all they have is $2 in their pocket, they give us the $2, they walk away with 5 pounds of vegetables. If somebody doesn't have anything, they walk around with food. Well, at the end of the day, even though we're for profit, we will find ways of making money based on how we grow and the way we do things. Part of the reason why this also works is we're also partnering with several nonprofits in the area that already do things to help people with food insecurity. So instead of them having to build systems, we're now partnering with them where they go out and as they raise money and grants, they basically help subsidize the cost that we use to provide those foods. So if somebody takes $10 worth of food, they can pay $5. We work out a percentage that a nonprofit will actually make up a certain percentage of that back so we can stay viable. Because another thing that we do in Montiel Farms is we want to eventually get to a point. As you can imagine, I'm one person running 14 farms. We want to get to a point where we start hiring people that are in these local neighborhoods to essentially own these farms, and we're supporting them. So it's not a franchise, but it's kind of like that. Think of it that way. We will train people to run farms, to make money, grow food, and support their neighbors at the same time. Sorry, my mouth is getting dry too. So it's pretty big. There's a lot of partners that are listed on there. Some of the other people that are involved in this is Wichita Area Sustainability Initiative, WASI. They're actually going to help us with support and with their curriculums already done, some fundraising. We're creating some internship programs based on a curriculum they've already developed and kind of adjusting that to have high school and college age interns. Because I will tell you, no project that we ever put together here, if you want it to last long term, will not be available if we don't get younger people involved. And I think most people agree with that. So there's a lot of hands-on approaches. Children's First already has things like a bread club and some other pieces that they target certain zip codes with. They're going to also be one of those nonprofit partners we work with. I've already mentioned Nudge Compost is obviously a big part of this. But ICT Food Rescue as a part of this, as far as conversation, they don't really have to change anything they do. They're just, if we have extra food, they will help deliver it to people that need it, foster care homes, other senior services, things of that nature. And then my other company is something called Walking Roots. And what Walking Roots does is we actually design edible landscapes and permaculture landscapes for people. So people who want farms or gardens in their own backyards, if they want things that are edible at their own homes, we help design those concepts and put those in. And part of anybody who doesn't understand permaculture, it's about creating systems that are self-supporting. It's very closed loop. So the idea is if you plant a tree, for instance, you don't fertilize the tree with outside chemicals. You find ways of planting plants around it that do all the fertilization, moisture retention, and things with it. You create basically miniature microsystems. So it's pretty interesting as far as how we do things. Usually when people visit my farms or garden, they think it's kind of looks kind of crazy and kind of wild. It is, but it's a lot of fun. We plant things to create less labor involved, which anybody who does gardening, the idea of weeding is not the most attractive for everybody, even though I can tell you some of my crew loves weeding. I think they're crazy. It's not my favorite thing, but we do things purposely to make it as streamlined and as efficient as possible, because we also want it to be enjoyable. Most of our locations that people see publicly currently are places like Little Stars Therapy Services, which is a school with kids with autism. We use the land for free to farm it, so we get to make money by sell, but what they use is they come out and they use the garden as part of the therapy services for the kids with autism. And these are kids 13 and younger. So one of the other places is we use it at Collegiate High School with very different parts of the area. We did something called a Milpa Garden last year, which is 42 different species of plants all knitted together. It's all soil health related. We use a lot of regenerative soil-based practices. But we had over 100 kids participate throughout the year versus volunteering, growing in it. This coming year, we're planting a market garden there. So they will be involved in entrepreneurship training and marketing and growing and natural sciences and all kinds of things that we can use that go well beyond just putting, grabbing the tomato off of a plant. It's truly a concept of building a future around these pieces. Trying to think if I'm missing any highs or lows.
How would you like us to support you in this?
Thank you. Well, So the proposal is a funding proposal. Basically, I built kind of the start of all the system. And once we kind of get farther down and once we identify a site, we'll design it, kind of be able to show what that will look like, those types of things. The number on there, I guarantee you, is probably higher than what most proposals you'll probably see across it, and I understand that. But it's also one of those pieces, just like I told the Green Space Subcommittee, is I don't give any numbers that I don't think are honest. I don't provide, there's nothing there. It's just, this is what it would cost. I think it's pretty unethical if people try to mess with that. So it's like, this is what it would do to hire somebody locally in the neighborhood, build an appropriate farm. And I will tell you, based on the soils and the parks, all the preparation pieces that are on there are pretty important. The good news is a lot of this is upfront, and once we build the foundation, costs get reduced. And the other thing I will note is this is not the full cost of this entire project. Roughly about $27,000 annually is what it would cost me to actually run this. So I'm only asking for the things that basically build the infrastructure, get us started, and actually create the educational programs in the area.
Do you see a model whereby, just based off of our own budget, being realistic about it, we wouldn't be able to do the whole thing, right? But if we were able to come up with a piece of it and then maybe help with corporate sponsors or other sponsors, would that be something?
At the end of the day, it's a budget, right?
Right.
This is what it would cost. Whatever we do to get there, we get there. Part of, like I said, part of my costs, I'm already working with the kind of our partners to help with the nonprofits that cover what I need to. But I'll give a good example. There's another city partner we're already about to launch and work with, so you guys will be some of the first to hear about this. Cowtown's actually going to bring Montiel Farms location there this time period specific.
Oh, awesome.
They're going to introduce sustainability programs. So Cowtown is part of their kind of coming out and doing things.
And are they funding it?
They are raising the money as a board. Once they should finalize that approval in February.
Okay.
And once they do that, we'll kick that off. We're even going to have some big events out in their field and all kinds of things that invite the public. It is not a closed door. Oh my gosh, it's going to be kind of once again, it's a party. It's coming out and improving the health of the soils, doing big things. And I will tell you, I'm going to pick a little bit on Botanica, just because I know they would too. They're going to kind of make Botanica look a little crazy with how they grow. I'm sorry if anybody's a master gardener of Botanica. When I got the tour of the amphitheater, I know they hired and stuff, and I realized it was really funny because I was there on a sustainability conversation. Somebody told me to talk to the former CEO, and the first thing he did was show me artificial grass. I couldn't help but laugh when he showed me this. It was really kind of funny. But it's also one of those things. I'll give you an example. Cowtown has some wells that we can use, and we're going to make it work. But the way I grow also reduces the amount of water consumption needed. Botanica's water bill, because he did show that to me, was over $34,000 a month. You want to talk about a sustainability project that you could probably push on the city? Tell them to lower that.
You grow organically.
Not certified organic because I don't go through the government. I know that sounds funny, but yes, we don't do anything that's not natural.
Okay.
Yeah.
I had a thought and then it went out of my head. It'll come back later, but
No, you're fine. There's a lot of information in that, and so I want to provide. I even provided those of you guys with copies. I even put pictures on the back because I am a big visual person, and sometimes there's pictures of you in there, Johnny. I did that on purpose. I had to hey, she's been there before. Sometimes it's not real if you don't see it, and there's enough people that walk up with proposals, and sometimes it's worth sharing that it's real. This couple of weeks ago we had, and actually the reason why even Liz got invited me to the Green Space Committee was I hosted a potluck. My crew wanted to host a potluck. So we all work on a contractor model. So all these folks are W-9 and 1099 by the end of the year. We had over 50 people attend this potluck. And a lot of reason for that was I wanted people to see each other. I have all these individual conversations, and sometimes it's worth getting people in a room and say things are happening. And out of that really kind of expanded some other pieces. So I get to see everybody. I get to see it. And it was fun getting about half of them in a room. I think as of this evening, I think it was up to 68 people, part of our crew this year going into the year, and we're only in our second year. It's pretty awesome. It's good. Yeah. And being for profit, those aren't volunteers, which makes it even more interesting.
Right.
Economic benefits. There you go.
There you go.
So
comments from the board or from anyone else in terms of, I mean, it's excellent, right? I mean, in terms of what you're proposing, and I think in terms of, like I said, us figuring out where in our budget this might fit, but then also, thinking through, okay, where else could you get the money to start something like this? Where you said a park, do you have any top choices?
So that's going to be some of the Parks Commission and I. So there is an addendum page. It's the very last page of text in there that actually lists the sites that I actually sent the Chris Pompelli based on my visual aspects. So I went through Google Earth and went through every single parks property in the city, which was a lot.
There's a lot.
And it really was narrowed down in the idea of parking, having a center, resources in the area, things of that nature, because you want it to be accessible. You don't want to pick a neighborhood park where the ability to be effective based on investment is pretty small.
Is the city itself, in terms of through the Parks Department, besides the land, are they talking about any financial contributions?
So Parks,
to,
Chris
or-
gave me the impression there's probably not a lot of finances on that side of it, but part of, I think, how we can cut down some of this budget, which is part of that conversation, is instead of me paying for dump trucks to go to like Hope in the Valley to get horse manure, because we use different local resources for those types of pieces, you know, could the city run out there and pick up manure at, you know, we just have to donate for it, being a nonprofit, we support another group, could they help us cut down costs?
Mhm.
Ground preparation, do they have equipment to do that? You know, those types of pieces, so
Yeah,
there's those types of things.
and then the idea would be do the first one as a model and then replicate it over and over and over. again.
Correct, and I didn't know this, but somebody has opened their mouth to it, but I was getting contacted by a few city council members yesterday during their workshop. So I have a feeling there's already some interest, I'll put it that way. And
Because
explain
that's
it
the
this.
other aspect too, and you know, so there's us as the board, and then, you know, for instance, the city has already agreed to plant $10,000 worth of trees, right, through the council.
Mhm.
So another avenue is for you to lobby the city council itself for funds towards this as well, in
Mhm.
addition to what we might consider providing as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then I was even thinking about this because on one of your previous meetings, and because I wanted to see kind of what topics were, I watched November's and December's while I was putting this together. You guys talked about tree disbursement and things. This could easily be one of those. We target a neighborhood, we educate homes on taking care of trees, and we use this as a central location to actually disperse trees. It takes care of a lot of logistics. I know that you guys have discussed previously.
Good,
I'm all about big solutions, so I can say.
sounds good.
Thomas, I'll also add that I think your name came up during the workshop because of the Healthy Corner Store initiative. And so that might be an
I saw that.
opportunity
I had like
to,
3
Yeah.
people send me a link to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Food Deserts, 2 council members in particular have really been pushing
Mhm.
more efforts in that area. So that's another way of definitely, you know, again, pursuing potential funding through the city itself.
Absolutely. I am, little background, I don't understand why we have long-term problems and we still aren't fixing them. Started food deserts, and hunger is one of those. To me, this is kind of the way you start localizing food systems to where we get rid of food deserts and honestly food insecurity as a whole.
Mhm.
And I don't think it would take very long based on the way we do things, the model we use.
Right. And what I like about this too is it's also teaching about good nutrition as well.
Absolutely.
So,
One of the biggest barriers to actually food access is not food itself, it's the cultural barriers that exist within
Right.
social economics. And so you have to cross those lines.
right, and show that it's accessible and affordable and desirable, tasty.
Absolutely. We want people to be able to walk to their local farm and then know how to use it.
Right.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Well, thank you. This is good.
How do you address what happens in the winter time, winter months? Because we do have a small growing season.
We can grow with even out high tunnels of greenhouses here in roughly about 10 to 10 and a half months. So we only have about a month and a half, 2 months we have to truly figure out without anything. And what I mean by that, that there's still limited selections. But we're actually in the process of actually working on some greenhouse space that we may be able to get a hold of, fingers crossed. It's a little bit of a long shot this week, but the other piece is when we talk about funding for the city, there's also those conversations that can we find grants for high tunnels, greenhouses, find local resource sources. So that's in the works, trying to be in the works at least.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
So you do know Leah?
Hi,
Okay,
I do know Leah.
okay. Just saying, she's got a lot of that infrastructure that she, I don't know, you know, she's got anything that she might not be using that she might be able to.
I
Get a
think
hold
she's
of, I don't
using the
know.
hall right now. She's gotten pretty busy. So.
Okay.
With our last 5 minutes, I want to give Paul a chance to update a little bit on the economic development building project. And we had some development yesterday through that, so.
Yeah, I can just give it really brief. We connected with folks from the Arts and Culture Department with the city, Lindsay Banaka and oh gosh,
Alicia, I forgot her last name, but Alicia. is her-
Alicia, who runs City Arts. She's the director over there. So
Mhm.
Yes.
yeah, so we discussed with them our desire to target a city-owned building for this energy benchmarking project and environmental impact performance. And so we felt like arts and culture with some of the different buildings in their portfolio that they might be of interest, and they felt like City Arts would be a really good possible candidate for this project. And so it sounds like we're gonna proceed with that as our kind of our target building that we want to propose for the project. So I think there's a couple things that are really nice about it. One is it's medium sized. It's not as large as we were kind of thinking at first, but I think it's because of the building structure and then also like floor plates, it's a little bit easier to wrap our hands around as far as doing the pilot project. And then it's also a comparable building structure to other commercial office buildings, things like that, that are also around Old Town or around just the Wichita's urban core in general. So hopefully being able to kind of help that make some of the business case for private property owners. That's something. So they were very excited about it, and also, you know, saw some potential crossover as far as doing, you know, public campaigning, community outreach, you know, things like sustainable building materials and, you know, art exhibits that are kind of around that. So I think that they'll be a really great partner and helping kind of, you know, obviously give us a space to test this, but then also, you know, help generate some excitement too.
Yeah,
So,
have more of a public space.
Yeah.
Or more of a public facing building in that sense. Which I want to parlay into kind of a call to action for all the committees, which is as we're really formulating these different plans and using this as an example of now we've actually got a building to target, we need to start putting together the plans for the city manager's office. Nina sent that around to us, but each individual committee needs to take a look at it and start putting that all together so that we can get it approved and moving forward. So ideally between now and the next time, at least those who've already started with some of the projects that will further developed, go ahead and start putting those together, and then hopefully we can submit here soon.
I think we have seen some,
Okay.
and we've run out of time, but they've
Today.
been in process.
Okay.
So,
Okay, so yeah, good, that's
Yeah.
good. I might circle back if you want.
What do you mean by putting it together exactly?
There's a form, so Nina, do you want to talk about that for a second?
yeah, I think I sent that
Yeah,
to you
yeah.
guys, but
Okay.
that general funding procedure document that lays out all the information we might want to know, or that the city manager's office might want to know as we bring it to Bob. And then, you know, flesh it out from there if need be, but that's sort of that starting point.
Right, and then we
Um,
can start actually putting these things into action rather
Right.
than,
So I have a few of them, or I have at least two of them from you guys, one from Waste and Recycling, and then one from Green Space. And I think those are pretty close to,
being
we're
ready to submit. Okay,
we would just need to have a bit of a discussion, probably
maybe next,
with the group, to make sure that there's no missing elements before, you know, taking it to
Bob. So maybe part of next month's discussion, that can be the ones that have already been prepared, that we have those discussions. And then we can move forward and again, start implementing some of these plans going into the spring.
Yes,
Um,
please.
yeah, so
Right,
we
yeah,
have.
timing is now.
Timing
yes,
is now.
yeah.
Timing is now.
We have Ty's presentation scheduled, and then I will put on 2 proposals after that for the
Perfect.
agenda.
That'll give us some time, and then we can start looking at some of the new ones that have been presented and start figuring out how that might fit into the budget as well. And in the meantime, Paul, you and I, of course, need to get together on doing that as well.
do we want to present the template proposal in our meeting before we send it, or is there?
Let's talk about that after. We can figure out our strategy on that, but we're 1 minute. Wow, look at that. Good-
And what
good
I'll
on-
do is the drafts that I do have,
I
I
thought
will
we were
send them
gonna be
out.
over.
I'll send them out to the full group. That way you guys can have a chance to review before the meeting,
Okay.
and then come to the next meeting
With our
feedback.
comments.
Ready?
Okay, perfect. That sounds good.
Please, the library.
Well, with that, we've got 15 minutes, I think, but still, but with that, I will adjourn the meeting.
Thank you for visiting.